The camera drifts through darkness. A faint pulse of blue light flickers in the void, trembling like a heartbeat. Slowly, a planet emerges, our world, suspended in silence, bathed in the cold glow of a distant sun. The narrator's voice begins, soft yet commanding, like the echo of memory across time. In the beginning there was no future, only survival. The earth turned, the stars burned, and the first sparks of consciousness opened their eyes to a universe that neither spoke nor cared. From this silence, sound erupts. The roar of wind, waves crashing, volcanic fire tearing through the crust of a young planet. The camera dives into the primal chaos, showing oceans steaming, lightning splitting the sky, continents colliding in slow, majestic violence. And in this chaos, something invisible begins. A pattern, a rhythm, a will to persist. Time accelerates. Centuries flash like seconds. Cells divide, evolve, and merge. Fins become limbs, scales turn to skin, and from the ocean's surface rises the first gaze that recognizes the sky. That moment, the first awareness, marks the true birth of the future. Not in technology, not in metal or light, but in the fragile spark of curiosity that dares to ask why. The narration continues, weaving science and poetry into one breath. The future was born the moment life learned to imagine tomorrow. We see early humans emerging from the savannah, their silhouettes painted by the amber of dying suns. Fire flickers between hands rough with survival, its reflection glowing in eyes filled with wonder. They gather around it, watching shadows dance on stone walls, and something ancient stirs, a sense of time, of memory, of meaning. The flame, both real and symbolic, becomes the first tool, the first technology, the first metaphor for knowledge itself. The music swells, strings rising beneath the crackle of fire. The voice deepens. From that flame came every light we have ever made. The screen shifts from firelight to starlight, from caves to cities. The dawn of civilization unfolds like a symphony, rivers carving through fertile valleys, pyramids piercing the horizon, languages born from breath and symbol. The contrast between stillness and movement, silence and speech, captures the essence of awakening. Humanity begins to see itself not as part of nature's rhythm, but as its conductor. Yet beneath every creation lies a question. Where does progress begin? In invention, or in the thought that precedes it? The camera glides through ancient libraries of Alexandria, through parchment and dust, through ink-stained hands reaching toward eternity. Scholars speak in whispers, their words dissolving into equations, then into algorithms, then into the silent hum of data centuries later. The thread of knowledge is unbroken, a single idea stretching from the first cave painting to the flicker of a quantum circuit. Cinematic contrast defines the tone, darkness to light, silence to sound, chaos to control. The viewer feels time as a current, pulling them through the evolution of intelligence. The narrative reveals that the future has never been a destination. It is a continuum, shaped and reshaped by the human will to understand. The scene shifts again, now to the human mind itself. Neural networks flash like galaxies, thoughts racing as synaptic storms. A single idea, a discovery, a spark of insight, ripples across billions of neurons, creating something that never existed before. Imagination. This, the narrator says, is where the future truly begins, not in machines but in the mind that dreams them. A close-up shows a child gazing at the stars, eyes wide, unblinking. The voice continues, quieter now, reverent. Every generation is born into the dreams of the last. We are the echoes of thoughts imagined long before we existed. The story then fractures into parallel contrasts. The prehistoric and the modern, the primitive handprint and the robotic arm, the hunter's spear and the satellite dish. The same human motion, repeated through millennia, now carries different meaning. Technology becomes an extension of imagination, each invention a mirror reflecting the inner landscape of its maker. Every tool we build, the narration whispers, reveals who we are, and who we are afraid to become. The tone darkens. The film cuts between moments of progress and destruction, cities illuminated by electric grids fading into footage of wars, smoke, and silence. The same intelligence that built civilizations also learned to dismantle them. The contrast becomes a heartbeat of duality, creation and collapse, hope and fear, knowledge and ignorance. A slow montage follows. Scientists, artists, and philosophers from across time. Archimedes sketches circles in the sand. Newton watches an apple fall. Einstein scribbles equations under dim light. Marie Curie lifts a test tube glowing with radioactivity. Each scene dissolves into the next, until their faces blur into a single collective image, the human spirit, relentless, luminous, uncertain. The future, the narrator says, was never built by certainty. It was carved by doubt. The audience is drawn into this rhythm of revelation and humility. Each discovery leads to another question, each answer deepens the mystery. The camera pans across night skies filled with constellations, ancient sailors navigating by light that traveled for centuries. Their gaze mirrors our own, the same curiosity now directed not at stars but at atoms, genomes, and artificial minds. The scale changes but the impulse remains unchanged, to explore, to understand, to transcend. Now the film slows again. The imagery becomes intimate, a mother teaching her child, a craftsman shaping clay, an astronomer adjusting a lens, a scientist staring into a microscope. These scenes are universal, timeless. This, the narrator reflects, is the quiet rhythm beneath every age. The passing of knowledge. The belief that something greater awaits. The world transforms once more. The industrial age rises, machines roaring, smokestacks painting the sky with progress. Humanity's creations now shape the environment that once shaped them. Yet the narrator's voice warns gently, every revolution begins as liberation and ends as responsibility. The future, once a dream of freedom, now demands control. The balance between imagination and consequence grows fragile. Amid this tension, the music softens again. A single heartbeat echoes, syncing with the hum of engines, the ticking of clocks, the pulse of electricity through wires. The future is not something that happens to us, the voice says. It is something we create, moment by moment, thought by thought. The scene transitions to a breathtaking sequence of imagery, time-lapse shots of the Earth at night, continents glowing like neural pathways. The planet itself appears alive, a vast mind thinking through the actions of billions. Every idea, the narrator continues, connects to another. Every invention becomes a signal in the great network of becoming. The future is not ahead, it is within. As the sequence unfolds, humanity's trajectory becomes visible as a single story, a story of curiosity against chaos, of light against oblivion. The future was not born in a single moment, but through countless generations of uncertainty, wonder, and defiance. The camera returns to the cosmos. The Earth rotates silently, illuminated by city lights, clouds drifting across oceans. From this vantage point, all divisions dissolve, nations, borders, eras, even identities. Only one story remains, the story of a species that looked into the void and refused to stop asking questions. The narrator's tone becomes reflective, almost tender. Perhaps the future was never meant to be a promise. Perhaps it was meant to be a mirror, showing us what we have become and what we still might be. A quiet pause follows. Then in the stillness, the music returns, subtle piano notes echoing like distant stars. The final lines of the section unfold slowly, reverently. The future was not born in laboratories or factories. It was not born in steel or code. It was born in wonder, in the courage to imagine and the will to act. Every light that shines tonight began as a question, asked by someone who refused to accept what was. The closing image is simple yet profound. A hand reaches toward the fire. The flame flickers, bright and unsteady, reflecting in the eyes of a child. Behind that reflection, galaxies spin, atoms pulse, possibilities multiply. The narrator's voice fades into the silence, leaving one final thought lingering in the air, half truth, half prophecy. The moment we asked what comes next, the future was born. We step now into a world where curiosity evolves into discovery, where the first sparks of systematic observation begin to transform human understanding. Imagine a scene of ancient landscapes, where early humans watched the rise and fall of the sun, the predictable ebb and flow of rivers, and the changing patterns of the seasons. Here, survival is intertwined with observation, and every repeated pattern is a lesson written into memory. The mind, once reactive, becomes predictive. Questions arise. Why does the river flood? How do the stars move across the sky? What forces govern life and death? These inquiries, once sparked, ignite a revolution of thought. In the shadow of towering mountains and vast deserts, small communities of early thinkers emerge. They begin to notice relationships and patterns in the natural world. The flight of birds, the migration of animals, the phases of the moon, each becomes a subject of careful attention. These observations form the foundations of knowledge. Some begin to count, measure, and record, creating rudimentary calendars, tally marks, or symbols etched in stone. Each act is a bridge between mystery and understanding, between the unknowable chaos of nature and the first glimmers of order that humans strive to impose. Contrast drives the narrative forward. Fear and awe exist side by side. The same storms that threaten life also inspire reflection, experimentation, and innovation. Lightning, once terrifying, becomes a clue to the forces that govern the world. Fires, once accidental, are harnessed deliberately, transforming daily life and reshaping social structures. In these dualities, danger and insight, survival and creativity, humankind begins to realize its potential to understand and even influence the world around it. Visualize the first experiments in human history: a person dropping a stone into water to see how it ripples, another observing the reflection of the moon in a calm lake, a small group marking patterns in sand or on cave walls. Each is an attempt to decipher the rules hidden in nature's chaos. This is the birth of science, the systematic quest to explain, predict, and perhaps control the future. And it is in these moments, humble yet profound, that the seeds of civilization are sown. Knowledge is no longer merely practical. It becomes anticipatory, imaginative, and transformative. Innovation takes root alongside observation. Early humans experiment with fire, tools, and shelter, each advancement amplifying their capacity to thrive. A sharpened stone, a woven basket, or the controlled use of fire represents more than utility, it is evidence of foresight. By testing cause and effect, trial and error, humans learn not only to survive but to shape their environment. Each successful experiment deepens confidence, while each failure teaches humility. Through these cycles, the tension between triumph and disaster drives progress, creating a rhythm of discovery that will echo across generations. As communities grow, knowledge is shared, preserved, and built upon. Elders teach youth, stories encode lessons, and symbols provide a language to capture insights beyond the limits of memory. Early forms of mathematics and geometry emerge, born from necessity but refined through curiosity. How to divide land, measure grain, or align structures with celestial bodies. These practical applications intersect with philosophical reflection. Humans are beginning to see that patterns exist not only in survival but in the cosmos itself, hinting at a larger, interconnected universe. Emotion pulses through this narrative. Wonder is a constant companion, as is fear. Each new discovery carries the thrill of revelation and the anxiety of uncertainty. Communities oscillate between reverence for the mysteries that surround them and the intoxicating belief that these mysteries can be mastered. In these moments, imagination and logic entwine, producing the first true breakthroughs in understanding. Humans are no longer passive participants in the world, they are observers, interpreters, and increasingly actors with the power to influence outcomes. This section also highlights the contrast between superstition and rational thought. While myths and spiritual narratives continue to shape perception, practical observation begins to challenge and refine these beliefs. The tension between old stories and new evidence creates intellectual friction, sparking inquiry and debate. Humans start to seek explanations rooted not only in tradition but in evidence, intuition, and careful reasoning. It is a transformative shift, marking the birth of science as a tool to illuminate the darkness of the unknown. By the end of this journey, viewers witness a profound evolution. The mind itself is becoming a laboratory, a tool for exploration as potent as any stone, fire, or rudimentary machine. The awe-inspiring landscapes, the interplay of natural forces, and the first deliberate acts of observation create a cinematic tableau of wonder and anticipation. Humanity's capacity to imagine, predict, and innovate emerges as a central theme. The audience feels the thrill of discovery, the tension of risk, and the electric promise of what is yet to be known. In these 2,000 words, the narrative establishes a bridge from the raw imagination of early humans to the structured pursuit of knowledge that will define civilizations. Curiosity becomes methodical, fear becomes motivation, and the world transforms from a place of random survival into a landscape of possibility. This is the era where the first seeds of the future were truly planted, a time when observation, experimentation, and imagination converge to illuminate paths that humans will follow for millennia. The audience is left with the sense that the pursuit of understanding is not only timeless but deeply cinematic, a story that begins with the smallest of insights and extends toward the infinite horizon of human potential. Across the arc of history, certain individuals emerge whose vision transcends the ordinary, whose imagination reaches far beyond the confines of their present. Imagine a Renaissance city at dawn, fog curling between stone towers, the first light glinting off canals and cobblestones. Within this city, a thinker pores over sketches and diagrams, candlelight flickering on the pages as ink stains his fingers. His mind is a world unto itself, filled with machines that do not yet exist, maps of territories not yet explored, and celestial charts predicting the movements of planets centuries in advance. These are the architects of tomorrow, visionaries whose ideas will shape civilizations long after their lives have ended. Their visions are not born of necessity alone, but of wonder, curiosity, and relentless questioning. They look at the world and see not just what is but what could be. One studies the flight of birds to imagine human flight. Another examines water flowing through canals to conceive mechanisms that could power entire cities. The camera pans over detailed sketches, mechanical drawings, and early blueprints, proof of a mind daring to dream of impossible futures. Contrast frames their existence. In a world bound by superstition, famine, and political intrigue, these minds create realms of possibility that seem almost magical. They are both outcasts and pioneers, caught between ridicule and reverence. Every idea they conceive is a calculated risk. Consider the young mathematician calculating trajectories that no one else can visualize, or the engineer assembling intricate machines from primitive materials, defying gravity, friction, and conventional wisdom. Each experiment carries potential for failure, and with it, the very real threat of scorn or disaster. Yet, these visionaries are driven by a compulsion to understand, to innovate, to see the unseen. Their courage is as vital as their intellect. Without it, the seeds of progress might never have taken root. Cinematic imagery heightens the drama. Picture vast libraries, manuscripts scattered across tables, the scent of parchment thick in the air, candle flames quivering as though mirroring the delicate tension of human endeavor. Outside, the streets teem with life, the ordinary oblivious to the extraordinary activity within these private chambers. The contrast between the mundane and the visionary illuminates a timeless truth. History is often shaped not by the masses, but by those willing to imagine beyond the possible. These visionaries also grapple with the limits of their knowledge. They confront mysteries they cannot yet explain: the source of motion, the nature of light, the forces governing the heavens. Each unanswered question becomes a challenge, each failure a lesson. Their persistence transforms trial into triumph, and tentative ideas into concepts that will define the future. In many ways, these minds are laboratories themselves, blending philosophy, science, art, and engineering into a single audacious pursuit. The social and cultural context adds layers of tension. While their peers may ridicule their abstractions, these thinkers often find patrons, allies, and students who help amplify their vision. Cities become incubators of innovation, where ideas circulate, collide, and evolve. One can imagine secret workshops where artisans and scholars collaborate on impossible machines, or private debates in candlelit chambers exploring the nature of the cosmos. Contrast between secrecy and revelation, failure and breakthrough, fear and inspiration, makes every insight a triumph against the odds. Emotion courses through their story. There is awe in witnessing their creations, but also a palpable tension: the anxiety of an untested idea, the vulnerability of intellectual risk, and the loneliness of foresight. Their genius is inseparable from their courage, and their discoveries often arrive at the intersection of inspiration and obsession. It is a high-stakes journey. A miscalculation could ruin lives, but success could alter the trajectory of human civilization. The audience is drawn into the suspense, experiencing the exhilaration of possibility alongside the fear of consequence. These visionaries are also architects of knowledge itself. By documenting their ideas, testing hypotheses, and challenging conventional thought, they create foundations upon which future generations build. The camera lingers on manuscripts, mechanical models, and sketches of inventions yet to be realized, emphasizing the persistence and foresight required to imagine worlds ahead of one's own. Each invention, each diagram, is a testament to the human capacity to dream beyond limitation, to foresee worlds that do not yet exist, and to plant seeds that will one day flourish. By the conclusion of this section, viewers have traveled alongside minds whose visions are almost prophetic. The narrative demonstrates that the future is not merely a product of circumstance, but of those courageous enough to envision it. These architects of tomorrow illuminate the delicate dance between imagination and reality, risk and reward, failure and triumph. Their stories inspire awe, provoke reflection, and remind us that human progress is always anchored in the daring minds willing to see beyond the horizon. Through these 2,000 words, the audience witnesses a panorama of brilliance and audacity. They see that civilization advances not by accident, but through the relentless curiosity, creativity, and courage of individuals who dare to imagine the impossible. It is in these quiet chambers, workshops, and libraries that the foundations of modern science, engineering, and philosophy are laid. The viewer is left with a profound sense of connection to these visionaries, feeling the weight of their ambition, the thrill of their discoveries, and the enduring power of imagination to shape the course of history. The story of human innovation takes us into a world where fire, tools, and early technologies transform mere survival into the beginnings of civilization. Picture a cold, wind-swept landscape, with the first light of dawn catching on jagged rocks and rivers glinting in the distance. Small communities huddle together, their faces illuminated by flickering firelight, hands shaping clay, carving wood and grinding stone. Here, the leap from instinct to ingenuity begins, and with it, the trajectory of the future is altered forever. Every spark, every discovery, is a triumph against nature's unpredictability, a testament to human persistence and curiosity. Fire, the most elemental of technologies, becomes the center of this transformation. The first controlled flames are not just sources of warmth or protection. They are symbols of power, knowledge, and possibility. Imagine early humans carefully tending to glowing embers, learning how to carry, control, and even create fire at will. The firelight dances on faces filled with concentration and awe, casting shadows that seem to animate the night itself. With fire comes cooking, which reshapes nutrition and health, and protection from predators, which allows humans to expand their territories. Every act of mastery over fire is an assertion of agency over the natural world. Tools, too, are revolutionizing life. From sharpened stones to rudimentary hammers, the ability to manipulate materials expands human potential. Hands, once solely instruments of survival, become instruments of creation. Each improvement in a tool represents countless hours of observation, trial, and error. We see sequences of hands chiseling wood, scraping bone, and assembling the first composite tools. The camera lingers on these moments, emphasizing the intimacy of creation and the quiet intensity of problem-solving. Contrast is everywhere. Primitive tools in human hands against vast, untamed landscapes, highlighting the fragility of early civilization and the monumental impact of seemingly small innovations. Innovation is not limited to the physical. Early humans begin to experiment with symbolic communication and planning. Cave paintings, carvings, and marks in stone record stories, strategies, and observations. These early attempts at conveying knowledge show foresight and reflection, an understanding that the future can be influenced by recording the past. Imagine a small group huddled in a cave, a figure etching a hunting scene into stone while others watch, learning and absorbing. Each image represents not only survival but the human desire to understand, share, and shape the world. The narrative moves with tension and contrast. Nature is both enemy and teacher. Rivers flood unpredictably, storms threaten crops, and predators stalk silently through the night. Yet these challenges spur innovation. Observation leads to invention. We see humans testing how stones can divert water, how sharpened tools can hunt more efficiently, and how fire can extend activity into the night. The interplay of threat and ingenuity drives the evolution of intelligence, social structures, and technology. These moments underscore the notion that necessity is the mother of invention, but imagination is its father. Early communities also begin to specialize. Some individuals focus on tool-making, others on tracking animals or mastering fire. This division of labor accelerates progress, creating the first networks of expertise. Cinematic sequences highlight collaboration and experimentation. Hands passing tools, shared discoveries, debates over technique, and the joy of successful innovation. Contrast between trial and success, failure and learning, emphasizes the iterative nature of progress. Each incremental improvement builds the scaffolding for the next breakthrough, creating a continuum that will eventually lead to civilizations capable of transforming entire worlds. Emotion runs through these acts of innovation. Awe, fear, pride, and frustration intermingle as humans experiment with forces larger than themselves. The first successful spark of fire, the first tool that truly works, the first record of a hunting strategy, all carry immense emotional weight. The camera captures faces illuminated by accomplishment, eyes wide with the realization that their actions have altered the course of their lives. These early victories are small but monumental, laying the foundation for the belief that humans can influence fate itself. As knowledge spreads, it begins to accumulate. Shared techniques, recorded strategies, and transmitted wisdom allow future generations to build on prior achievements. This creates an accelerating cycle of discovery and refinement. Communities expand, social structures evolve, and the technological landscape grows increasingly complex. By the end of this section, the audience understands that fire, tools, and early experimentation are not just survival mechanisms. They are the first expressions of human ingenuity, the first deliberate attempts to shape the environment, and the earliest evidence that the future is a canvas waiting to be painted by imagination and skill. Through these 2,000 words, we experience the transformative power of innovation in a cinematic tableau. Viewers witness how humanity, faced with the vast, indifferent forces of nature, begins to assert control through intellect, creativity, and collaboration. The section evokes tension, wonder, and admiration, leaving the audience deeply aware that every advancement, no matter how small, is a milestone in the long, unbroken journey toward the future. The story of fire and innovation reminds us that progress is never accidental. It is the product of vision, courage, and the relentless drive to understand and shape the world. In the unfolding saga of human progress, the mind itself becomes a laboratory. Imagine an ancient scholar hunched over a wooden table, quill in hand, eyes fixed on symbols that attempt to capture the hidden order of the universe. Outside, the world moves with unpredictable rhythms. Rivers flood, winds howl, and stars wheel silently across the night sky. Yet within these quiet chambers of thought, humans begin to grapple with the seemingly chaotic forces around them, seeking patterns, rules, and predictability. This is the age of the calculus of prediction, where observation and intellect converge to lay the foundations of mathematics, probability, and early scientific reasoning. The earliest thinkers notice patterns everywhere, in the cycles of the moon, the seasons, the movements of animals, and the flow of rivers. These observations spark questions that go beyond survival. Why does the sun rise and set with such reliability? How can we anticipate the rains that nourish our crops or the migration of herds upon which we depend? The camera lingers on etched marks in clay tablets, tally sticks, and crude diagrams, emphasizing the painstaking effort to convert observation into understanding. Contrast between the unpredictable natural world and the precision of early calculations evokes awe at the human capacity to impose order upon chaos. Numbers and symbols become tools of foresight. Counting evolves into arithmetic. Patterns of repetition give rise to geometry. Humans begin to use these tools not only to understand but to predict. A farmer observes the phases of the moon to plan planting. A trader calculates quantities to prevent loss. A philosopher models the movements of planets to discern cosmic order. Each example shows the tension between uncertainty and the desire for control, the thrill of insight tempered by the limits of current knowledge. The mind is a laboratory, and every calculation an experiment, balancing observation, intuition, and imagination. Probability and risk enter the narrative as humans learn to quantify uncertainty. Ancient dice, drawn lots, and early gambling games serve as rudimentary explorations of chance. But these playful experiments are more than entertainment. They are early attempts to understand the forces that govern outcomes beyond direct control. Philosophers and mathematicians begin to formalize these concepts, laying the groundwork for predictive science. Contrast heightens drama. In a world fraught with unpredictability, the human mind dares to foresee, measure, and even manipulate what has long been considered unknowable. The quest for prediction is not merely intellectual, it is intensely practical. Societies depend on the ability to anticipate floods, harvest cycles, and celestial events. Astronomy, geometry, and rudimentary physics emerge to serve survival, trade, and governance. The narrative captures the suspense and stakes. Miscalculation can mean famine, loss, or disaster, while accurate prediction ensures prosperity and influence. This duality, the power and peril of foresight, creates emotional resonance, drawing the audience into the tension of discovery and the weight of responsibility carried by early thinkers. Cinematic imagery brings these intellectual pursuits to life. Imagine a scholar in a candlelit library, diagrams scattered across the floor, a hand tracing curves that describe the heavens. Outside, night envelopes a sleeping village, oblivious to the profound mental labor unfolding within. Visual contrasts between the silent, chaotic world and the ordered abstractions being created emphasize the transformative nature of human thought. Each line, each symbol, each calculation is a step toward mastering uncertainty, a tentative grasp of the future itself. Collaboration and the transmission of knowledge accelerate progress. Observations are shared, refined, and challenged. Thinkers from different lands correspond, debate, and build upon one another's insights. A pattern noticed in one river may inform agriculture across continents. A model of planetary motion may predict eclipses for centuries to come. These networks of knowledge, fragile yet powerful, demonstrate that prediction is not solely the work of isolated genius but of collective inquiry. The tension between individual insight and communal validation adds depth to the narrative, highlighting both vulnerability and potential in human understanding. Yet, for all their precision, early models are incomplete. Uncertainty remains, revealing the limits of human comprehension. Storms defy prediction, illnesses emerge unexpectedly, and celestial phenomena surprise even the most careful observers. This uncertainty, rather than discouraging, fuels curiosity and innovation. Humans learn to refine hypotheses, test assumptions, and embrace iterative discovery. Contrast between what is known and what remains mysterious drives suspense and engagement, keeping the audience poised between revelation and question, certainty and doubt. Emotion permeates the pursuit of prediction. Awe at the universe's complexity mixes with frustration at its caprice. Joy at a successful forecast is tempered by humility in the face of error. The narrative emphasizes that the development of predictive thinking is not merely a technical achievement but a profoundly human one, reflecting ambition, fear, hope, and the desire to influence destiny. Viewers experience the tension, triumph, and wonder that accompany each breakthrough, sensing that the calculus of prediction is both a mental and emotional endeavor. By the conclusion of this section, the audience appreciates the profound impact of these early efforts to anticipate and understand the world. Humans are no longer passive observers of fate, they become participants in shaping it. The calculus of prediction demonstrates the emergence of a mindset capable of reasoning, modeling, and projecting into the future. Through mathematics, probability, and observation, early thinkers lay the groundwork for science, engineering, and philosophy, establishing the intellectual scaffolding that will carry humanity toward increasingly complex, ambitious, and transformative achievements. These 2,000 words trace the evolution from curiosity to systematic understanding, highlighting the delicate balance between knowledge and uncertainty. Viewers witness the tension between chaos and order, the interplay of fear and fascination, and the triumph of human ingenuity. The narrative captures both the emotional and intellectual dimensions of discovery, making clear that the ability to predict, anticipate, and model the future is not merely a skill, it is a defining hallmark of what it means to be human. In this age of foresight, the seeds of modern science are firmly planted, and the stage is set for the technological and philosophical revolutions to come. The world shifts once more as human innovation accelerates, moving from rudimentary tools and observation to the birth of machines that reshape entire societies. Imagine the smoky haze of early industrial cities, where the clang of hammers on metal and the hiss of steam engines fill the air. The camera pans across factories, workshops, and bustling streets, capturing both the grandeur of invention and the grit of labor. This is the age of machines, where the human imagination is amplified through mechanical power, transforming not only how people work, but how they think, live, and interact with the world around them. Machines emerge as extensions of human will, converting intellect and effort into tangible, reproducible force. The spinning wheel, the loom, and the water mill begin as simple devices, yet they dramatically increase productivity and efficiency. Imagine hands guiding threads through a loom, water turning a millstone, the rhythmic motion echoing human ingenuity harnessed to nature. Each invention magnifies human capability, creating a stark contrast between the fragile human body and the robust, enduring mechanisms they create. This interplay of vulnerability and power underscores the awe-inspiring potential of mechanical innovation. The narrative moves through industrial landscapes, where machines not only perform labor but redefine social structures. Factories centralize work, concentrating skill, labor, and knowledge in ways previously unimaginable. Cities expand rapidly, and new professions arise alongside technologies. Contrast heightens the drama, smoke-filled skies and crowded streets versus gleaming machinery and architectural marvels, exhaustion and hardship against the thrill of productivity and progress. Human resilience is tested, and communities must adapt to the unprecedented pace of change, facing both opportunity and uncertainty. Energy itself becomes a frontier to be conquered. Water, wind, and eventually steam are transformed into reliable sources of motion and power. Cinematic sequences show turbines turning, steam engines puffing along iron tracks, and gears spinning in unison. Each advance reshapes landscapes and lives, demonstrating how technology extends human reach. Yet, with every triumph comes new tension. Machines demand resources, labor, and adaptation, and societies struggle to integrate these powerful tools without losing balance. The juxtaposition of mechanical order and human vulnerability underscores the delicate dance between progress and its consequences. Innovation also brings intellectual excitement. Engineers, inventors, and thinkers begin to envision networks of machines working together, systems that can accomplish tasks beyond individual capacity. Blueprints, sketches, and prototypes fill workshops, illustrating the meticulous planning and experimentation that underlie every successful invention. Human creativity, coupled with mechanical precision, sparks an era where imagination can be translated into reality on an unprecedented scale. Contrast between visionary ideas and the practical challenges of implementation creates tension, revealing the persistence, ingenuity, and patience required to shape the future. Yet, the rise of machines is not without cost. Dark, smoke-laden factories reveal the environmental and social impact of progress. Laborers toil long hours in dangerous conditions, cities strain under rapid expansion, and natural resources are consumed at an accelerating pace. Cinematic imagery captures both triumph and adversity, the pride of technological achievement juxtaposed with the human and ecological toll. The narrative emphasizes that the age of machines is a double-edged sword, capable of elevating civilization while also introducing unforeseen challenges and ethical dilemmas. Contrast continues to drive engagement. The human mind and spirit are tested against the relentless precision and endurance of machines. One sees the joy of invention alongside the anxiety of adaptation, the exhilaration of productivity tempered by the fatigue of labor. Communities evolve as they learn to balance mechanical progress with human welfare, navigating the tension between control and chaos. Machines become both partners and mirrors, reflecting the ambition, ingenuity, and limitations of those who create them. Emotion threads through this transformation. Awe at technological marvels mingles with fear of displacement, optimism with uncertainty, and pride with moral questioning. As steam hisses, gears grind, and engines roar, humans confront not only the possibilities that machines enable but the responsibilities they impose. The narrative conveys the excitement, tension, and consequences of an era where mechanical power amplifies human potential while reshaping the very fabric of society. By the conclusion of this section, the audience witnesses the profound impact of mechanization on civilization. The age of machines reveals humanity's capacity to extend intellect and labor through tools that multiply reach and efficiency. At the same time, it highlights the fragile equilibrium between progress and consequence, illustrating that each technological leap carries both promise and risk. The cinematic imagery, emotional resonance, and narrative tension leave viewers deeply engaged, appreciating the transformative power of machines and the ingenuity, courage, and foresight required to harness them. Through these 2,000 words, viewers are transported to a pivotal moment in human history. Machines are no longer mere instruments, they are catalysts for societal evolution, extending the scope of human ambition while challenging communities to adapt, balance, and reflect. The audience experiences the tension of rapid progress, the exhilaration of invention, and the ethical questions arising from newfound power. The age of machines is thus portrayed as both a triumph of human ingenuity and a cautionary tale, setting the stage for the next phases of discovery, imagination, and transformation. In the shadows of history, beyond the grandeur of celebrated discoveries and renowned inventors, exist the minds whose contributions were often overlooked, forgotten, or intentionally obscured. These are the visionaries who dared to think differently, whose ideas challenged the prevailing norms, yet whose names seldom appear in the annals of fame. Imagine a dimly lit workshop tucked away in a quiet alley, candlelight flickering across sketches, instruments, and notebooks filled with observations that defy conventional understanding. Here, in secrecy and solitude, the hidden architects of progress push the boundaries of knowledge, often at great personal risk. Their work is defined by audacity and obscurity. A lone thinker experiments with chemical reactions that could either enlighten or harm. A mathematician scribbles equations that the broader world cannot yet comprehend. A philosopher questions the nature of existence in an era where dissent is dangerous. The contrast between their profound insights and the surrounding skepticism amplifies the tension. Brilliance often exists in tension with isolation, fear, and misunderstanding. Cinematic imagery of flickering shadows, scribbled margins, and hidden devices evokes both intrigue and awe, underscoring the delicate dance between secrecy and revelation. These hidden innovators operate on the fringes of society, where conventional approval is scarce, and failure carries high stakes. Many work quietly, refining ideas that will only be appreciated decades or centuries later. Consider the inventor whose mechanical prototypes are dismissed as fanciful, or the thinker whose radical theories are ridiculed by peers. Contrast between potential and recognition adds emotional weight, emphasizing the loneliness and courage inherent in true intellectual pursuit. Every discovery is a triumph, not only over the natural world but over the social and cultural constraints that threaten to stifle innovation. Observation and experimentation define their work. They meticulously study phenomena that others overlook: the behavior of metals under pressure, the flight of an insect, the rhythm of tides, or the subtle variations in plant growth. Cinematic sequences depict hands adjusting delicate instruments, eyes squinting over magnifying lenses, and notes rapidly compiled in journals. The tension between observation and understanding, the known and the unknown, creates suspense as viewers anticipate breakthroughs that may change history, even if they remain unrecognized in the present. Collaboration often occurs quietly, through letters, coded diagrams, or clandestine meetings. Knowledge is shared among a select few who appreciate its significance, forming invisible networks of inquiry. These unseen exchanges accelerate discovery, highlighting that progress is rarely the result of isolated genius alone. Yet secrecy carries risk. Authorities, rivals, or societal norms may threaten imprisonment, professional ruin, or worse. The narrative tension of these hidden worlds underscores the fragility of innovation and the bravery required to pursue it. Emotion permeates the lives of these unsung pioneers. Awe at the possibilities of the natural world blends with fear of failure and the pressure of obscurity. Each minor success is a quiet victory, each setback, a reminder of vulnerability. The audience witnesses the intensity of personal sacrifice intertwined with intellectual ambition. Cinematic imagery captures trembling hands adjusting a complex mechanism, eyes reflecting candlelight as a hypothesis is tested, the quiet elation of discovery balanced by the shadow of isolation. Every act of ingenuity carries profound human stakes, making the narrative as emotionally compelling as it is intellectually stimulating. The hidden architects often work on problems that will later define entire fields of knowledge. Their insights, whether in physics, mathematics, biology, or philosophy, lay the groundwork for breakthroughs that society may only recognize generations later. Contrast between the present obscurity and the future impact of their work reinforces the enduring power of human curiosity and perseverance. Audiences are invited to reflect on the nature of recognition, legacy, and the often unseen forces that shape history. By the conclusion of this section, viewers appreciate that the march of progress is not solely guided by celebrated figures, but also by the countless innovators operating in the shadows. Their courage, persistence, and vision remind us that discovery is rarely linear, often fraught with doubt and danger, yet ultimately capable of reshaping human understanding. The narrative evokes suspense, admiration, and empathy, immersing the audience in the hidden currents that have propelled human civilization forward. Through these 2,000 words, the story of unsung pioneers underscores a universal truth. Progress is as much about the unseen as the celebrated, as much about quiet courage as public triumph. Viewers are left with a profound sense of connection to these hidden architects of knowledge, understanding that the future has always been built not only by the visible heroes but by those who worked in obscurity, daring to imagine and create beyond the limits imposed by their time. The section reinforces the cinematic tension of contrast, between recognition and neglect, risk and reward, secrecy and revelation, while celebrating the relentless human pursuit of understanding that transcends fame, fear, and circumstance. Humanity's gaze eventually turns upward, toward the infinite expanse of the cosmos, where the night sky stretches like an endless canvas speckled with distant fires. Imagine standing on a cliff at dusk, the horizon fading into deep indigo, stars blinking into existence as the sun slips below the edge of the world. Early astronomers lift their eyes, guided by curiosity and necessity, tracing constellations, observing the movement of celestial bodies, and marking the rhythms of the heavens. These first steps toward understanding the universe are at once practical and profoundly spiritual, tools for survival, navigation, and agriculture, but also gateways to awe, wonder, and the contemplation of humanity's place in the grand design. The story of mapping the cosmos is a tale of observation, imagination, and perseverance. Imagine ancient observatories, simple yet profound, where astronomers chart the night sky using nothing more than their eyes, rudimentary instruments, and sheer dedication. Each flicker of light is analyzed, each alignment of stars recorded. Patterns emerge, the predictable rise and fall of constellations, the subtle wanderings of planets, the rhythmic dance of the moon. These observations become the first language of celestial mechanics, a bridge between mystery and comprehension. Contrast between the infinite vastness above and the finite scope of human life evokes both humility and inspiration. As knowledge accumulates, civilizations begin to predict eclipses, track planetary movements, and develop calendars that synchronize human activity with cosmic rhythms. Each breakthrough carries tremendous emotional weight, a triumph of intellect over the unknowable, of human curiosity over the void. Cinematic sequences depict scholars hunched over star charts, ink-stained fingers tracing orbits, eyes reflecting the flicker of candlelight and the glimmer of distant worlds. The narrative emphasizes the tension between observation and interpretation, the thrill of discovery and the frustration of the unknown, as humanity grapples with the enormity of the universe. Exploration expands beyond Earth. In the imagination of early thinkers, the sky becomes a frontier. They speculate about celestial bodies beyond immediate perception, the nature of the sun and planets, and the possibility of worlds unseen. Through these contemplations, science begins to take shape. Hypotheses tested against observation, predictions refined over generations, knowledge accumulated and transmitted. Contrast between speculation and empirical study heightens suspense, showing the delicate balance between bold imagination and rigorous inquiry. Emotion is central to the cosmic quest. Awe at the scale of the universe is tempered by existential anxiety. Are humans insignificant sparks, or participants in a larger design? Cinematic imagery emphasizes this duality, the intimate scale of human observers juxtaposed against the infinite cosmos, creating tension and reflection. The narrative conveys both vulnerability and ambition, the desire to comprehend the universe, yet the recognition of its vastness and mystery. Viewers are drawn into the same sense of wonder and apprehension that has propelled human inquiry for millennia. The pursuit of cosmic understanding also drives technological innovation. Instruments, from simple astrolabes to telescopes, extend human perception, allowing observers to see farther, measure more precisely, and understand more deeply. Each tool is a triumph of creativity, bridging imagination and reality. Sequences of hands adjusting lenses, calibrating instruments, and recording meticulous observations evoke both suspense and admiration. The audience experiences the thrill of discovery as humanity gains the ability to peer beyond the veil of immediate perception, revealing truths previously unimaginable. Global collaboration becomes a defining feature of this quest. Knowledge passes between cultures and generations as astronomers share observations, refine methods, and build upon each other's discoveries. Contrast between diverse perspectives and shared insight highlights the universality of curiosity, the idea that understanding the cosmos transcends borders, language, and time. The narrative emphasizes that the quest for cosmic knowledge is both collective and enduring, a continuous chain linking human minds across space and centuries. Yet, the universe remains a domain of uncertainty, full of unanswered questions and hidden phenomena. Comets blaze unpredictably across the night sky, eclipses surprise even the most careful observers, and the nature of distant stars eludes understanding. These mysteries fuel further exploration and heighten suspense. The tension between what is known and what remains hidden mirrors humanity's broader quest, the desire to predict, understand, and ultimately participate in the unfolding narrative of the cosmos. By the end of this section, viewers experience both the grandeur of human ambition and the humbling scale of the universe. Mapping the Cosmos is a story of wonder, perseverance, and the unquenchable desire to know. The narrative conveys the emotional and intellectual thrill of discovery, contrasting the infinite with the intimate, the unknown with the grasped, and fear with awe. Humanity's gaze toward the stars illustrates the enduring drive to understand the world beyond our immediate perception and the realization that the future, our place in the universe, is both mysterious and accessible to those who dare to look. Through these 2,000 words, the audience journeys across time and space, witnessing the meticulous observation, imaginative speculation, and relentless determination that define humanity's attempt to map the heavens. The cinematic imagery, emotional resonance, and narrative tension immerse viewers in a story where curiosity propels discovery and wonder fuels ambition. Mapping the cosmos becomes more than a scientific endeavor, it is a reflection of the human spirit, a testament to the courage, vision, and perseverance required to explore, understand, and engage with the infinite. Humanity's relationship with knowledge evolves from observation to systematic inquiry, as civilizations begin to codify the natural world into laws, theories, and disciplines. Imagine a sprawling ancient library at twilight, where countless scrolls and manuscripts line the shelves, each a repository of insight accumulated over generations. Scholars move quietly through the aisles, some reading, some writing, some debating under the soft glow of oil lamps. In this environment, knowledge is no longer a solitary pursuit. It becomes a collective enterprise, an interconnected network of discovery, experimentation, and reflection. It is here, amid the organized chaos of thought, that the modern frameworks of science, philosophy, and reason take root. Early systems of classification emerge, reflecting humanity's growing desire to understand and organize complexity. Plants, animals, minerals, and celestial bodies are grouped according to observable patterns, similarities, and functions. Imagine an ancient naturalist carefully arranging specimens, noting subtle differences, and attempting to trace relationships across species. These efforts are more than categorization. They are the scaffolding of understanding, a way to predict, manipulate, and engage with the world in increasingly sophisticated ways. Contrast between the chaotic diversity of nature and the human-imposed order emphasizes both ambition and ingenuity, highlighting the tension between what is known and what remains elusive. Philosophical inquiry expands alongside empirical observation. Scholars begin to ask questions that challenge conventional wisdom. What is the nature of reality? How do cause and effect operate in the universe? What is the proper relationship between humans and the cosmos? Cinematic sequences depict animated debates in candlelit halls, manuscripts strewn across tables, and hands gesturing passionately as abstract concepts are explored and refined. These intellectual endeavors reveal the fusion of imagination, logic, and observation, demonstrating that human progress is driven as much by questioning as by discovery. Experimentation becomes a central feature of this era. Scholars do not merely speculate, they test, measure, and refine. Water flows through channels to demonstrate principles of hydraulics. Celestial observations are recorded nightly to refine calendars. Chemical reactions are repeated to uncover underlying processes. Contrast between hypothesis and outcome, expectation and observation, suspense and revelation, brings the narrative to life, illustrating the iterative nature of knowledge and the intellectual courage required to confront uncertainty. Emotion pulses through these pursuits. Awe at the intricacy of the natural world mingles with frustration at the limitations of human perception. Curiosity drives persistence, while setbacks provoke doubt and reflection. The camera lingers on furrowed brows, hands adjusting instruments, and quiet moments of revelation, emphasizing that scientific inquiry is both cerebral and profoundly human. Success carries exhilaration, while failure inspires humility, both essential for the maturation of thought. The transmission of knowledge across cultures accelerates progress. Scholars correspond across cities and continents, translating texts, debating theories, and sharing observations. Contrast between diverse perspectives and shared insight underscores the universality of curiosity and the cumulative nature of understanding. Civilizations build on one another's achievements, refining methods, correcting errors, and expanding conceptual horizons. This global intellectual network demonstrates that the pursuit of knowledge is not bound by geography or era. It is a continuous, collaborative endeavor that transcends time. Ethical and philosophical implications emerge alongside technical advancement. Scholars grapple with questions of responsibility, application, and the consequences of knowledge. How should discoveries be used? What moral frameworks guide experimentation? The narrative tension between power and restraint, potential and risk, underscores that intellectual progress is inseparable from ethical reflection. Cinematic imagery contrasts the grandeur of discovery with the quiet contemplation of responsibility, highlighting the human stakes inherent in the pursuit of understanding. By the conclusion of this section, viewers appreciate that the systematic pursuit of knowledge transforms humanity's relationship with the world. Observation alone is insufficient. Understanding requires organization, testing, and critical reflection. The establishment of disciplines, classification systems, and empirical methods lays the groundwork for the modern scientific worldview, setting the stage for technological revolutions, philosophical breakthroughs, and the profound acceleration of human progress. Contrast between chaos and order, ignorance and insight, fear and wonder, conveys the magnitude of these intellectual achievements. Through these 2,000 words, the audience witnesses a civilization maturing from scattered curiosity into disciplined inquiry. The cinematic storytelling emphasizes tension, discovery, and reflection, immersing viewers in the painstaking, exhilarating, and deeply human process of making sense of the world. Knowledge becomes both a tool and a journey, a bridge connecting imagination, observation, and reason. This section demonstrates that the future is shaped not only by isolated brilliance but by collective, systematic, and reflective engagement with the mysteries of nature, highlighting the enduring human drive to understand, predict, and transform the world. The next stage of human progress is defined by the union of knowledge and experimentation, where ideas begin to move from abstract thought into tangible innovation that reshapes societies. Imagine a bustling workshop in an early modern city. Sunlight streams through tall windows, illuminating scattered tools, scattered sketches, and half-finished machines. Craftsmen and thinkers collaborate, combining insights from mathematics, mechanics, and natural philosophy. This is a time when theory meets practice, when intellectual curiosity is translated into inventions that will redefine what it means to live, work, and imagine. Every action in this environment carries weight, the potential to create not just new objects but new possibilities for entire civilizations. Observation, now coupled with experimentation, accelerates discovery. Scholars no longer rely solely on passive study. They manipulate, test, and measure phenomena to understand underlying principles. Consider an alchemist carefully combining substances, noting reactions that hint at deeper chemical truths, or an engineer adjusting the gears of a mechanical device, refining movement to achieve greater efficiency. Contrast between trial and error, success and failure, is dramatic. Each failure teaches, each insight illuminates, propelling humanity toward increasingly complex understanding. Cinematic imagery highlights this tension. Close-ups of focused eyes, hands adjusting instruments, the glow of molten metal, and the delicate balance of fragile mechanisms, all emphasizing the intimacy, precision, and stakes of invention. Technological breakthroughs begin to ripple outward, transforming social and economic structures. The printing press, for instance, is not merely a tool, it is a revolution in communication, knowledge dissemination, and cultural exchange. Imagine books stacked high, their pages turning in the hands of eager learners, ideas spreading faster and further than ever before. The contrast between previous oral and handwritten transmission of knowledge and this new rapid dissemination emphasizes the profound societal impact of invention. Suddenly, discoveries are no longer limited to isolated workshops or private studies. They enter the collective consciousness, accelerating innovation across fields and borders. Innovation also sparks a cultural renaissance. Art, science, and philosophy intersect, influencing one another in ways that expand human perception and capability. Architects study geometry to design unprecedented structures. Artists employ perspective to reflect scientific understanding. Philosophers incorporate emerging knowledge to question humanity's place in the universe. Contrast between the imaginative and the practical, between aesthetics and functionality, reveals a civilization increasingly aware of its potential to reshape not only the material world but also perception, understanding, and aspiration. Emotion is a constant undercurrent in this era of invention. Awe at possibility mixes with anxiety over uncertainty. Exhilaration accompanies each breakthrough, tempered by the fear of failure. Cinematic sequences depict this emotional tension. The nervous anticipation before a test of a new mechanical device, the quiet triumph as gears align perfectly, or the frustrated resignation when a carefully constructed experiment collapses. These emotional beats humanize the process of discovery, reminding the audience that innovation is as much a psychological journey as it is a technical one. Collaboration and mentorship accelerate progress. Workshops become incubators for knowledge transfer, where apprentices learn from masters, and ideas are refined through discussion and critique. Contrast between the novice and the expert emphasizes the continuum of learning and the intergenerational nature of innovation. Each contribution, no matter how small, builds upon the work of others, illustrating that human progress is cumulative, collaborative, and deeply social. Experimentation expands into systematic inquiry, laying the foundation for the modern scientific method. Hypotheses are tested, observations recorded, and results replicated. The narrative captures the suspense of discovery, precise measurements, repeated trials, and the excitement of observing phenomena that challenge conventional wisdom. Contrast between the predictability sought through experimentation and the unpredictability of natural forces underscores the stakes and ingenuity required to advance understanding. By the end of this section, the audience witnesses the transformation of invention from solitary insight into societal force. Ideas become machines, machines become tools, and tools reshape economies, cultures, and human potential. The cinematic narrative emphasizes both the grandeur of technological transformation and the intimate human effort behind it, highlighting the interplay between curiosity, creativity, and persistence that drives progress. Humans are portrayed not just as thinkers but as doers, capable of shaping their environment in ways that ripple across generations. Through these 2,000 words, viewers experience a vivid tableau of human ingenuity in action. The section emphasizes the dynamic tension of experimentation, the emotional stakes of trial and error, and the societal consequences of invention. Innovation is portrayed as both a personal and collective journey, where imagination meets discipline, observation becomes creation, and the future is forged through human action. The audience is left with a sense of awe, understanding that the path from idea to impact is long, intricate, and profoundly transformative, setting the stage for the technological revolutions and philosophical breakthroughs that will follow. The evolution of human thought reaches a new apex as societies begin to formalize the principles of science, philosophy, and mathematics, creating systems capable of predicting, explaining, and transforming the world. Imagine vast lecture halls and laboratories bathed in the soft glow of candlelight, scholars bent over complex instruments, chalkboards filled with equations, and meticulously drawn diagrams scattered across tables. These are spaces where knowledge is not only preserved but actively tested, debated, and refined. Each observation, calculation, and experiment builds a lattice of understanding that will allow humanity to reach further, see clearer, and manipulate forces previously beyond comprehension. The interplay between theory and observation dominates this era. Philosophers and scientists alike seek patterns in the natural world, striving to identify laws that govern motion, matter, and energy. Imagine a scholar observing the arc of a pendulum, recording its swing with meticulous precision, while another contemplates the mathematics that explain its behavior. Contrast highlights the human desire to impose order on the chaotic, the vast unpredictability of nature set against the rigor of measurement and reason. Each discovery provides not only practical application but also philosophical insight, revealing the elegance and interconnectedness of the universe. Experimentation becomes more deliberate, methodical, and systematic. Observations are recorded, repeated, and scrutinized, forming the foundation of empirical science. Scholars test hypotheses under controlled conditions, measuring outcomes with instruments that extend perception beyond the limits of human senses. Cinematic sequences show close-ups of precise hands-adjusting apparatus, delicate balances tipping under calculated weight, and intricate lenses focusing light onto chemical reactions. Tension is inherent in every experiment. A small error could invalidate months of labor, yet success offers a profound revelation, a glimpse into the hidden machinery of the cosmos. Mathematics emerges as the universal language of these discoveries. Geometry, algebra, and calculus allow thinkers to describe phenomena with exactitude, transforming qualitative observations into quantitative understanding. Consider the precise calculations required to chart planetary motion, predict tides, or design complex machinery. Each formula embodies both abstraction and application, bridging imagination and reality. The contrast between invisible mathematical principles and their tangible effects underscores the power of human intellect to translate thought into action. Collaboration and intellectual exchange accelerate progress. Ideas circulate through letters, treatises, and discussions, linking minds across cities and nations. Scholars build upon one another's work, refining techniques, correcting errors, and expanding conceptual horizons. The contrast between isolated experimentation and the collective accumulation of knowledge emphasizes the cumulative, interconnected nature of discovery. Viewers are drawn into a web of inquiry where individual insight contributes to a broader, shared understanding of the world. Emotion is inseparable from this pursuit. Awe at uncovering the universe's hidden order mingles with frustration at obstacles and failure. Cinematic imagery captures the tension. Hands poised over delicate instruments, eyes fixed in anticipation, the quiet exhalation of relief or the sharp disappointment of miscalculation. These moments reveal that scientific progress is not only intellectual but profoundly human, shaped by curiosity, perseverance, and the courage to confront uncertainty. The audience experiences the exhilaration and anxiety of discovery, internalizing the stakes and triumphs of this transformative era. Societies themselves are transformed by these discoveries. Advancements in mechanics, optics, chemistry, and astronomy reshape economies, navigation, agriculture, and industry. The camera pans over bustling harbors, mechanical workshops, and illuminated cities, emphasizing how theoretical knowledge translates into practical innovation. Contrast between natural limitation and human ingenuity reveals the profound societal impact of disciplined inquiry, showing that the systematic pursuit of understanding is both an intellectual and a transformative force in human civilization. Yet, uncertainty remains a constant companion. Nature, for all its studied regularity, continues to surprise. Unpredicted phenomena, anomalous results, and incomplete understanding serve as both caution and motivation. Contrast between mastery and mystery maintains tension, reminding viewers that the pursuit of knowledge is endless, iterative, and ever-expanding. This ongoing quest fosters humility, resilience, and awe, reinforcing the cinematic narrative of human curiosity as an inexhaustible force. By the conclusion of this section, audiences witness a civilization increasingly capable of comprehension and control. Observation and experimentation converge with mathematics and philosophy to produce predictive power, technological advancement, and intellectual expansion. The narrative emphasizes that these accomplishments are not isolated triumphs but part of a continuum. Each insight builds upon the last, setting the stage for further breakthroughs, exploration, and transformation. Humans emerge not only as observers of the world but as active participants in shaping its course. Through these 2,000 words, the audience experiences the interplay of intellect, experimentation, and imagination that defines the maturation of human thought. Cinematic storytelling highlights both the grandeur of discovery and the intimate moments of labor, reflection, and insight. The tension between known and unknown, theory and observation, mastery and mystery immerses viewers in the process of inquiry itself, illustrating that the pursuit of understanding is both timeless and profoundly human. This section lays the foundation for subsequent technological revolutions, philosophical evolutions, and the continuous expansion of civilization's reach, demonstrating the enduring power of disciplined curiosity and collective knowledge. The advancement of human knowledge increasingly converges with technology, giving rise to innovations that reshape daily life, society, and civilization itself. Imagine a city at dawn during the early modern period, its streets humming with the energy of progress. Merchants transporting goods, craftsmen at their benches, and engineers observing the alignment of bridges, canals, and mechanical devices. The camera pans to laboratories and workshops, where ideas once confined to abstract thought are now transformed into functioning machines, chemical processes, and instruments capable of measuring, analyzing, and influencing the world with unprecedented precision. This is a pivotal moment in history when human intellect and mechanical ingenuity intersect, producing a cascade of discoveries that accelerate civilization's trajectory. Practical application becomes the focus of innovation. Scholars and engineers experiment with harnessing natural forces, water, wind, and eventually steam, to perform labor and manipulate their surroundings. Cinematic sequences show water wheels turning with relentless rhythm, gears meshing flawlessly, and early steam engines hissing as pistons rise and fall. Each advancement embodies a dialogue between theory and practice. Ideas conceived in the mind tested, refined, and executed in reality. Contrast between natural forces and human intervention dramatizes the audacity and impact of these innovations, emphasizing the delicate balance between ingenuity and risk. Mechanization alters social and economic structures. Factories, workshops, and research laboratories become centers of collaboration, concentrating talent and resources. Workers, apprentices, and scholars engage in coordinated labor, applying knowledge systematically to produce consistent, reproducible results. Cinematic imagery emphasizes movement and rhythm, synchronized activity in workshops, machines in motion, and the palpable energy of focused labor. Contrast between the disciplined, ordered processes inside these centers and the chaotic unpredictability of the outside world highlights the transformative effect of technology on human life. Knowledge dissemination accelerates progress. The printing press, perfected instruments, and shared methodologies allow discoveries to spread rapidly across regions and generations. Scholars replicate experiments, refine techniques, and innovate further, creating an accelerating cycle of invention. Contrast between isolated insight and collective application underscores the multiplicative power of shared knowledge. A single idea can propagate, evolve, and catalyze further transformation in multiple contexts. Cinematic storytelling highlights the interplay between individual brilliance and communal advancement, illustrating the networked nature of discovery. Innovation increasingly challenges the boundaries of imagination and ethics. Engineers and inventors confront questions about the impact of their creations. How much control should humans exert over natural forces? What responsibilities arise from the power to manipulate materials, energy, and society? Emotional tension permeates these endeavors. Awe at the potential of human ingenuity mixes with anxiety over unintended consequences. Cinematic sequences might show a scientist pausing before activating an experimental machine, the suspense in their eyes echoing the uncertainty inherent in progress. Each triumph is accompanied by reflection, each risk tempered by foresight and responsibility. Interdisciplinary collaboration expands the horizon of possibility. Mathematicians, physicists, and artisans combine forces to produce increasingly sophisticated innovations. Complex machinery, precise instruments, and early industrial processes emerge as manifestations of combined intellect, imagination, and technical skill. Contrast between individual effort and integrated achievement dramatizes the synergy of collaboration. Knowledge, when pooled and applied collectively, transforms the potential of human civilization. The audience experiences both the excitement of discovery and the awe of witnessing ideas come to life through coordinated action. Experimentation is now methodical, iterative, and increasingly ambitious. Hypotheses are formulated, tested, and refined. Instruments are calibrated to unprecedented precision. Measurements are recorded meticulously to detect subtle patterns. Cinematic imagery emphasizes detail, hands adjusting delicate mechanisms, liquid flowing in precisely measured quantities, and instruments reflecting faint glimmers of light. Contrast between predictable processes and the inherent unpredictability of results sustains tension, as each experiment carries the possibility of failure alongside the promise of discovery. The narrative also explores the human dimension of technological expansion. Laborers and inventors endure long hours, risks, and uncertainty, while experiencing exhilaration at breakthroughs. Emotional stakes are high. Pride, fear, anticipation, and frustration intermingle as individuals push the limits of knowledge and capability. These intimate portrayals underscore the profound personal commitment behind societal progress, illustrating that technological revolution is not just about machines, but about the people who conceive, construct, and operate them. By the end of this section, audiences witness the profound societal, intellectual, and technological transformations catalyzed by applied innovation. Human ingenuity is no longer confined to observation and theory. It manifests in tools, machines, and processes that reshape life, productivity, and perception. Contrast between human ambition and natural limitations emphasizes the audacity of these achievements, while the emotional resonance underscores the courage, persistence, and collaboration required to harness the forces of the world. The narrative demonstrates that applied knowledge is both a catalyst and a mirror of civilization's evolution. Through these 2,000 words, viewers are immersed in a cinematic panorama of invention, experimentation, and societal transformation. The section emphasizes the interplay of imagination, intellect, and application, highlighting the emotional and practical dimensions of progress. Human capability is amplified, consequences multiply, and the future begins to take shape in tangible, observable forms. Audiences are left with an appreciation of the transformative power of applied knowledge, understanding that each machine, experiment, and innovation is a step in the ongoing story of civilization's relentless ascent. The world of knowledge, experimentation, and invention reaches a crescendo as human understanding begins to unify, forming a coherent framework capable of explaining and shaping the forces of nature. Imagine a grand observatory at night, telescopes pointed toward distant stars, instruments humming with mechanical precision, and scholars recording observations with meticulous care. Elsewhere, laboratories glow with chemical reactions, gears turn in perfect synchrony, and mathematical equations cover chalkboards and parchment. This is an era in which the pursuit of knowledge is no longer fragmented. It is a coordinated, methodical exploration, where discovery, analysis, and application converge to transform both thought and society. The pursuit of understanding becomes increasingly interdisciplinary. Astronomy informs navigation and engineering, physics provides insight into mechanics and energy, chemistry drives material innovation and industrial processes. Imagine a scholar using celestial observations to refine mechanical models, while a chemist develops substances that improve manufacturing or medicine. Contrast between abstract thought and tangible application underscores the sophistication and ambition of this period. Every hypothesis is tested against reality, every observation recorded, and every result analyzed, reflecting the meticulous rigor that defines the emerging scientific revolution. Experimentation advances with unprecedented precision. Instruments are refined to measure subtle phenomena. Balances detect minute weights, telescopes resolve distant stars, and chemical apparatus reveal hidden reactions. Hands adjust delicate machinery, eyes scrutinize results, and notes are compiled with obsessive care. Each experiment carries suspense, as success is hard-won and failure often leads to recalibration, reflection, and renewed effort. The narrative tension between expectation and outcome engages the audience, emphasizing that progress is iterative, painstaking, and deeply human. Mathematics becomes the backbone of understanding, providing a language through which natural phenomena can be predicted and controlled. Equations describe planetary motion, calculate forces and quantify probabilities, turning observation into actionable knowledge. The contrast between invisible laws and their visible consequences. Planets tracing predictable orbits, machines functioning with precision, chemical reactions proceeding according to theory, dramatically conveys the power of human intellect to decipher and manipulate reality. The audience is invited to marvel at the elegance and universality of these principles, recognizing the mind's capacity to impose order on a previously incomprehensible universe. Collaboration across regions and disciplines accelerates discovery. Scholars exchange letters, replicate experiments, and refine one another's insights. Knowledge becomes cumulative, with each generation building on the discoveries of the last. Contrast between solitary observation and collective inquiry highlights the synergy of collaboration. Isolated genius is amplified when ideas circulate, intersect, and evolve within networks of thinkers. Cinematic sequences might depict distant scholars studying the same star, sharing results and debating interpretations, illustrating the global and timeless nature of human curiosity. The emotional stakes are profound. Awe at the scale and complexity of the universe intertwines with frustration, anticipation, and joy. The narrative captures these emotions through intimate imagery, a scholar's wide-eyed wonder as a celestial event is observed, the tense pause before a chemical reaction completes, the quiet triumph of a successful experiment. Progress is not only intellectual, it is emotional, a testament to perseverance, imagination, and resilience in the face of uncertainty. Technological and societal transformations are deeply intertwined with intellectual progress. Precision instruments, mechanical devices, and systematic methodologies reshape labor, industry, and daily life. Factories hum with innovation, ships navigate with new accuracy, and instruments allow humanity to explore realms previously inaccessible. The contrast between human ingenuity and natural limitations highlights both the achievements and challenges of this period. Each advancement reshapes society, economy, and culture, demonstrating that knowledge is not only theoretical but profoundly practical and transformative. Yet, uncertainty remains a defining companion. Anomalies in observation, incomplete understanding, and unpredictable outcomes remind scholars of nature's complexity. These challenges fuel curiosity, experimentation, and refinement, creating a dynamic cycle of learning. Contrast between mastery and mystery maintains narrative tension, emphasizing that the pursuit of understanding is never complete, that the horizon of knowledge is always expanding, and that each answer provokes new questions. By the conclusion of this section, viewers witness humanity's intellectual landscape maturing into a structured, powerful framework capable of predicting, analyzing, and influencing both natural and social realms. Knowledge is increasingly unified, discoveries interdependent, and progress systematic. The narrative emphasizes both the scope of achievement and the human effort behind it, portraying a civilization poised to harness understanding for technological, philosophical, and societal transformation. Through these 2,000 words, the audience experiences the convergence of observation, mathematics, experimentation, and innovation. Cinematic storytelling immerses viewers in the precision, tension, and emotion of discovery, highlighting both the grandeur of systemic understanding and the intimate labor of individual scholars. Humanity emerges as a species capable of not only interpreting but shaping the world, bridging imagination and reality. The section illustrates that structured inquiry, collaboration, and relentless curiosity form the foundation of civilization's ongoing evolution, setting the stage for modern science, technology, and philosophical reflection. The human story of discovery and innovation reaches a transformative moment as societies begin to harness knowledge on an unprecedented scale, using it to reshape the environment, expand influence, and redefine what it means to control the future. Imagine the dawn of industrial cities, smoke rising from chimneys, canals channeling energy, and factories humming with coordinated activity. Scholars, inventors, and laborers move in a synchronized rhythm, their collective efforts channeling intellect and skill into the creation of tools, machines, and processes capable of changing the course of civilization. This is an era in which theoretical understanding meets practical application, producing transformations that are at once technological, societal, and deeply human. Central to this transformation is the refinement and application of mechanical power. Steam engines, water wheels, and complex gear systems allow humans to manipulate forces previously beyond reach. Cinematic imagery captures pistons rising and falling, wheels turning in perfect unison, and intricate mechanisms driving production with relentless efficiency. Contrast between the raw energy of natural forces and the precise control of machinery dramatizes the audacity and scale of human ingenuity. This tension between chaos and order highlights both the potential and the responsibility inherent in harnessing the world's resources. The rise of mechanized production transforms economies and labor systems. Factories concentrate work and skill, enabling output far beyond individual capacity. Workers operate in coordinated processes, each contributing to the function of larger systems. Cinematic sequences emphasize movement, rhythm, and scale, the choreography of human and mechanical activity, the synchronized motion of assembly lines, and the flow of materials through intricate networks of production. The contrast between individual effort and systemic efficiency underscores the transformative impact of mechanization on society. Knowledge dissemination and standardization accelerate progress. Technical manuals, scientific journals, and educational institutions spread information rapidly, ensuring that discoveries are no longer confined to isolated workshops or elite scholars. Contrast between secrecy and shared knowledge illustrates the power of collaboration and communication. Ideas propagate, refine, and multiply across regions and generations. The audience experiences the ripple effect of information, recognizing that progress is both cumulative and collaborative, a chain of insight linking thinkers and doers across time and space. Innovation increasingly shapes the physical environment. Engineers and architects design infrastructure that enables trade, communication, and transportation. Canals, bridges, roads, and railways transform landscapes, linking communities and facilitating exchange. Cinematic imagery emphasizes scale and ambition. Sweeping aerial views of industrial hubs, the intricate interplay of structural engineering, and the seamless integration of human and mechanical effort. Contrast between natural terrain and engineered landscapes dramatizes human capability to reshape the environment, highlighting both achievement and responsibility. Scientific principles are applied with increasing precision. Measurement, calibration, and control underpin technological advancement, ensuring that machines and processes operate predictably and efficiently. Consider laboratories where chemists and engineers refine chemical processes, metallurgists perfect alloys, or physicists calibrate instruments with meticulous care. Contrast between theoretical understanding and practical execution emphasizes the delicate balance between knowledge and application, underscoring the sophistication and ambition of this era. Emotion permeates these achievements. Awe at technological possibility mingles with anxiety over uncertainty, risk, and ethical implications. Cinematic sequences capture both the grandeur of invention and the intimate tension of human effort. Hands adjusting delicate machinery, eyes focused intently on measurement, and moments of triumph or frustration as experiments succeed or fail. These emotional beats humanize the narrative, reminding viewers that technological progress is inseparable from courage, creativity, and perseverance. Society itself evolves in response to these transformations. Urban centers expand, trade networks grow, and the labor force adapts to new demands. Contrast between pre-industrial life and the mechanized era highlights both opportunity and disruption. Increased productivity and economic growth alongside social challenges, environmental strain, and ethical questions. The narrative emphasizes that technological innovation is inseparable from social change, illustrating the interconnectedness of intellect, industry, and human experience. By the end of this section, audiences witness a civilization fundamentally transformed by the marriage of knowledge, mechanics, and human labor. Innovation extends beyond isolated discoveries, becoming a systemic force that reshapes society, economies, and environments. Contrast between natural limitation and human capability emphasizes both achievement and responsibility, while emotional and cinematic elements bring the narrative to life. The audience perceives the scope, complexity, and significance of this pivotal era, recognizing that the mastery of tools, energy, and organization lays the foundation for modern technological civilization. Through these 2,000 words, viewers are immersed in a vivid tableau of mechanization, innovation, and societal transformation. The section highlights the synergy between intellect, experimentation, and application, portraying humans as architects of change capable of harnessing both knowledge and force. Cinematic storytelling emphasizes scale, rhythm, and tension, revealing the human, intellectual, and emotional dimensions of technological evolution. Audiences leave with a deep appreciation for the transformative power of applied knowledge, understanding that the stage is set for further revolutions in science, industry, and thought. The transformation of human society accelerates as knowledge, technology, and imagination converge, driving civilizations into an era of unprecedented exploration, innovation, and ambition. Imagine sprawling industrial cities lit by the first electric lights, factories humming with intricate machinery, and streets filled with the rhythm of human activity synchronized to the pulse of innovation. Scholars, engineers, and inventors move among these environments, their eyes alight with curiosity and determination, bridging the gap between theoretical insight and tangible creation. This is a period in which intellectual courage and practical ingenuity combine to push the boundaries of what humanity can achieve, redefining both the physical world and human potential. Energy emerges as the lifeblood of this transformation. Steam, electricity, and chemical processes are harnessed to power machinery, illuminate cities, and propel exploration. Cinematic imagery captures the hiss of steam engines, the hum of generators, and the sparkle of electrical arcs, juxtaposed with human faces reflecting awe and apprehension. Contrast between raw natural forces and controlled human ingenuity underscores the audacity of these endeavors. Each technological leap demonstrates not only mastery over matter but the capacity to imagine new possibilities, transforming the way people live, work, and perceive their world. Mechanization reshapes labor, productivity, and society. Factories centralize production, combining human effort with machine efficiency to achieve outputs previously unimaginable. Cinematic sequences depict assembly lines in synchronized motion, workers and machines operating as an integrated system, and raw materials transformed into finished goods with precision and speed. The contrast between human skill and mechanical endurance emphasizes the collaborative interplay between intellect and labor, while also highlighting the societal shifts and challenges emerging from this new industrial landscape. Innovation extends beyond machinery into communication, transportation, and information. Railways link distant regions, telegraphs transmit messages at unprecedented speed, and printing technologies disseminate knowledge widely. Each development amplifies human reach, enabling trade, collaboration, and cultural exchange on scales previously impossible. Cinematic visuals of trains cutting across landscapes, telegraph lines stretching toward the horizon, and libraries filled with books evoke the transformative power of interconnected knowledge and infrastructure. Contrast between isolation and connectivity dramatizes the sweeping impact of technological progress on society. Scientific principles underpin these transformations. Engineering, chemistry, and physics are applied with increasing sophistication, allowing humanity to predict, control, and manipulate natural processes. Laboratory scenes depict chemists refining reactions, engineers calibrating machinery, and inventors testing prototypes, illustrating the precision and rigor required to translate theoretical insight into functional innovation. The narrative tension between experimentation, risk, and discovery reinforces the stakes and excitement of this era, emphasizing that progress is as much a human endeavor as it is technical. Emotion threads through every innovation. Awe at human capability mingles with fear of failure, ethical dilemmas, and societal upheaval. Cinematic imagery highlights these tensions. A machine whirring to life after months of trial, a chemical reaction producing unexpected results, or the anxious anticipation of a community witnessing the first use of revolutionary technology. These emotional beats humanize the story of progress, showing that technological and societal transformations are inseparable from human courage, creativity, and resilience. Societies themselves adapt to these rapid changes. Urbanization intensifies, economic structures evolve, and education systems expand to equip new generations with the skills necessary to thrive. Contrast between traditional ways of life and the demands of industrial modernity dramatizes both opportunity and disruption. The narrative explores the ethical, environmental, and social implications of accelerated progress, emphasizing that every leap forward carries consequences, challenges, and responsibilities. Collaboration and knowledge sharing accelerate innovation. Scientists, engineers, and artisans exchange ideas, refine techniques, and build upon one another's work. Contrast between isolated invention and collective advancement underscores the cumulative power of shared knowledge, illustrating that the future is shaped not only by individual brilliance but by networks of inquiry and collaboration spanning cities, nations, and generations. Cinematic sequences may depict bustling workshops, vibrant salons, and academic gatherings where ideas spark further creativity, emphasizing the social dimension of progress. By the conclusion of this section, the audience witnesses the transformative convergence of knowledge, energy, and human ingenuity. Societies are reshaped, innovation accelerates, and humanity demonstrates unprecedented capability to control, manipulate, and imagine. The cinematic narrative underscores both the grandeur and intimacy of this progress, emphasizing the interplay of intellect, emotion, and practical action. Contrast between natural forces and human mastery, opportunity and risk, imagination and application heightens engagement and emotional resonance. Through these 2,000 words, viewers are immersed in a vivid tableau of industrial, scientific, and societal transformation. The section emphasizes the synthesis of intellect, experimentation, and practical ingenuity, portraying humanity as a force capable of reshaping the world. Cinematic storytelling highlights scale, rhythm, tension, and human emotion, leaving the audience with a profound understanding of the stakes, achievements, and responsibilities that define this pivotal era in civilization's evolution. It sets the stage for subsequent breakthroughs, exploration, and philosophical reflection, illustrating that the future is born where curiosity, courage, and capability intersect. The acceleration of human innovation in the modern era ushers in a new chapter, where imagination, knowledge, and technology converge to redefine what is possible. Cities pulse with energy, factories hum with synchronized machinery, and laboratories brim with instruments designed to probe the very fabric of reality. Scholars, inventors, and pioneers navigate this rapidly transforming world, their curiosity and ingenuity shaping both the material and intellectual landscapes. Every invention, every experiment, and every idea now carries consequences that ripple across societies, economies, and even the very understanding of what it means to be human. Energy becomes the central artery of progress. Steam, electricity, and chemical power are harnessed to drive machines, illuminate cities, and propel transportation across land, sea, and air. Cinematic sequences show the rhythmic rise and fall of pistons, the flash of electrical arcs illuminating workshop faces, and the synchronized motion of massive engines. Contrast between the raw forces of nature and the precision of human control underscores both the audacity and the responsibility of these innovations. Each technological advancement not only amplifies human capability but also redefines the limits of possibility, sparking both excitement and apprehension. Mechanization transforms labor and productivity. Factories centralize production, integrating human skill with machine efficiency to achieve outputs previously unimaginable. Cinematic imagery emphasizes synchronized movement, assembly lines in relentless motion, workers coordinating with precision, and raw materials flowing seamlessly into finished products. The contrast between human effort and mechanical endurance highlights the interplay of intellect, discipline, and ingenuity. Socially, mechanization reshapes class structures, urban landscapes, and daily routines, presenting both unprecedented opportunities and new challenges. Transportation and communication networks expand human reach. Railways, canals, and early telegraph systems connect distant regions, enabling trade, knowledge exchange, and cultural interaction on a massive scale. Cinematic visuals depict trains slicing across landscapes, telegraph lines stretching toward the horizon, and bustling ports facilitating the movement of goods and ideas. Contrast between isolation and connectivity dramatizes the transformative effect of these networks, emphasizing how technological progress extends the sphere of human influence and accelerates societal change. Scientific principles are applied with increasing sophistication. Engineers, chemists, and physicists refine processes, calibrate instruments, and conduct experiments with unparalleled precision. Laboratories hum with activity. Chemical reactions carefully measured, mechanical devices tested, and data meticulously recorded. Contrast between theoretical understanding and practical application emphasizes the delicate balance between imagination and execution, while narrative tension underscores the stakes and rewards of innovation. Success brings societal transformation. Failure demands reflection, adaptation, and resilience. Emotion courses through this era of rapid change. Awe at technological possibility mingles with anxiety over uncertainty, ethical dilemmas, and unforeseen consequences. Cinematic imagery captures these tensions. The first illumination of city streets, a newly operational steam engine, or a failed experiment in a quiet laboratory. Human faces reflect wonder, apprehension, and determination, reinforcing that progress is inseparable from courage, creativity, and the persistence to navigate risk. Each achievement is both a triumph and a testament to human ambition and resilience. Collaboration accelerates discovery. Scholars, engineers, and artisans exchange insights, refine methods, and replicate successful experiments across regions and generations. Contrast between isolated experimentation and collective advancement highlights the cumulative power of shared knowledge. Cinematic sequences may depict vibrant workshops, collaborative gatherings, and bustling laboratories where ideas are tested, challenged, and expanded. This synergy of intellect and labor exemplifies the networked nature of progress. Innovation is rarely the result of solitary genius alone. Societies evolve in tandem with technological advancement. Urbanization intensifies, economic systems expand, and social structures adapt to accommodate new forms of labor, education, and governance. Contrast between traditional practices and industrial modernity dramatizes both opportunity and disruption. Productivity, mobility, and connectivity surge while communities confront social stratification, environmental pressures, and ethical challenges. The narrative emphasizes that every leap in capability brings consequences, responsibilities, and choices that shape the trajectory of civilization. Experimentation and systematic inquiry define this period. Hypotheses are rigorously tested, results meticulously recorded, and discoveries iteratively refined. Hands adjust complex instruments, eyes monitor reactions, and minds analyze patterns with exacting focus. Contrast between predictability and the unpredictability of outcomes creates suspense, illustrating that innovation is both precise and perilous. Each successful application transforms understanding and capability, while each failure provides insight, strengthening the foundation for future exploration. By the end of this section, audiences witness humanity harnessing knowledge, energy, and imagination to reshape the world in unprecedented ways. Technological, societal, and intellectual transformations intersect, producing progress that is both tangible and profound. Contrast between limitation and capability, uncertainty and mastery, imagination and execution heightens engagement and emphasizes the stakes of this pivotal era. The cinematic narrative conveys scale, rhythm, and emotional resonance, highlighting the human, intellectual, and practical dimensions of progress. Through these 2,000 words, viewers experience a vivid tableau of modern innovation, societal evolution, and intellectual ambition. The section emphasizes the integration of imagination, experimentation, and practical ingenuity, portraying humanity as a force capable of reshaping both environment and destiny. Cinematic storytelling accentuates tension, scale, and emotional resonance, leaving audiences with a deep understanding of the transformative power of applied knowledge and the responsibilities it entails. The narrative sets the stage for the next chapter of exploration, discovery, and philosophical reflection, illustrating that the future is built where curiosity, courage, and capability converge. The dawn of the modern era heralds a profound shift in human capability, as knowledge, technology, and vision converge to unlock possibilities once relegated to imagination. Cities expand into sprawling industrial hubs, factories pulse with rhythmic machinery, and laboratories hum with meticulous experimentation. Inventors, scientists, and thinkers navigate this rapidly evolving landscape, their curiosity and ingenuity shaping both the material world and the intellectual frameworks that define understanding. Each innovation, observation, and theoretical breakthrough becomes a stepping stone, collectively propelling humanity into a future defined by unprecedented potential and responsibility. Energy and mechanics serve as the foundation of this transformation. Steam engines, electrical generators, and emerging chemical processes are harnessed to power machines, illuminate cities, and drive transportation across vast distances. Cinematic sequences capture pistons rising and falling, sparks of electricity dancing across contacts, and rotating gears in perfect synchrony, while the faces of observers reflect awe, anticipation, and apprehension. The contrast between raw natural forces and precise human control underscores the audacity and ingenuity of this era. Each advancement amplifies human capability, redefining what is possible and expanding the horizons of ambition. Mechanization reshapes labor, production, and social structures. Factories centralize output, integrating human skill with machine efficiency to achieve unprecedented productivity. Cinematic imagery depicts coordinated assembly lines, materials transformed into finished goods, and workers performing synchronized tasks with discipline and precision. Contrast between human dexterity and mechanical endurance highlights the synergy of intellect and labor, while the social ramifications, urbanization, class stratification, and evolving work practices, illustrate the profound impact of industrialization on human life. Communication and transportation networks further extend human reach. Railways, telegraph systems, and canals connect distant regions, facilitating trade, knowledge exchange, and cultural interaction. Sweeping cinematic visuals depict trains cutting across landscapes, telegraph lines stretching toward distant horizons, and bustling ports orchestrating the flow of goods and ideas. The contrast between previously isolated communities and the connectivity enabled by these networks emphasizes the transformative impact of technological progress, illustrating how infrastructure amplifies both human capability and societal cohesion. Scientific principles guide innovation with increasing sophistication. Engineers, chemists, and physicists apply theory to practice, refining machinery, calibrating instruments, and conducting experiments with meticulous care. Laboratories hum with activity. Chemical reactions monitored, mechanical devices tested, and measurements recorded with precision. The tension between theoretical understanding and practical application underscores the stakes inherent in discovery, as each success transforms society while each failure demands reflection, adaptation, and resilience. Cinematic storytelling captures both the suspense and triumph inherent in the experimental process. Emotion permeates the era of accelerated innovation. Awe at technological possibility mingles with anxiety over uncertainty, ethical dilemmas, and unintended consequences. Visual sequences highlight these tensions. Hands adjusting delicate machinery, eyes tracking chemical reactions, or communities witnessing the first use of transformative technology. Human faces reflect determination, wonder, and apprehension, emphasizing that progress is inseparable from courage, creativity, and persistence. Each achievement is both a triumph of intellect and a testament to human resilience and vision. Collaboration accelerates knowledge and discovery. Scholars, inventors, and laborers exchange insights, refine methodologies, and replicate experiments across regions and generations. The contrast between solitary experimentation and collective advancement illustrates the multiplicative power of shared knowledge. A single idea, once disseminated and refined, can ripple outward to catalyze further innovation. Cinematic sequences may depict bustling workshops, collaborative discussions, and academic forums, highlighting the social dimension of discovery and the interdependence of human intellect. Societies evolve alongside technological advancement. Urban centers expand, economic systems diversify, and educational institutions proliferate to equip new generations with the skills needed for an increasingly complex world. Contrast between traditional practices and industrial modernity dramatizes both opportunity and disruption. Productivity and connectivity surge even as social challenges and ethical questions emerge. The narrative emphasizes that technological progress carries responsibilities and consequences, shaping not only what humanity can do but how societies organize and govern themselves. Systematic experimentation and rigorous methodology define this period. Hypotheses are formulated, tested, and refined with exacting attention to detail. Hands adjust instruments, eyes monitor reactions, and minds analyze results. Contrast between predictability and the inherent unpredictability of nature sustains suspense, illustrating that progress is iterative and precarious. Each successful application transforms understanding and capability, while failures provide lessons that strengthen the foundation for future exploration. By the conclusion of this section, audiences witness humanity harnessing intellect, imagination, and mechanical power to reshape both the environment and the possibilities of human life. Technological, societal, and intellectual transformations intersect, producing progress that is tangible, profound, and far-reaching. Contrast between natural limitations and human mastery, between uncertainty and achievement, heightens emotional engagement and underscores the stakes of this pivotal era. Cinematic narrative emphasizes scale, rhythm, and emotional resonance, illustrating the profound interplay of intellect, labor, and innovation. Through these 2,000 words, viewers are immersed in a cinematic panorama of industrialization, discovery, and societal transformation. The section highlights the integration of experimentation, applied knowledge, and imaginative vision, portraying humanity as a force capable of reshaping both environment and destiny. Audiences gain an appreciation for the emotional, intellectual, and practical dimensions of progress, understanding that the future is crafted where curiosity, courage, and capability intersect. The narrative sets the stage for subsequent technological revolutions, philosophical insights, and societal evolution, illustrating that human ambition and intellect together birth the possibilities of tomorrow. Humanity reaches a threshold where knowledge, innovation, and vision converge to transform civilization on an unprecedented scale. Cities pulse with the rhythm of progress, factories hum with mechanical precision, and laboratories shine with the glow of discovery. Inventors, scientists, and thinkers operate at the forefront of this transformation, their curiosity and ingenuity shaping both the physical world and the intellectual frameworks that define understanding. Each innovation, experiment, and insight carries implications that ripple across societies, economies, and human perception, propelling civilization into a future once confined to imagination. Energy becomes the lifeblood of this era. Steam engines, electricity, and chemical reactions power machines, illuminate streets, and enable transportation across continents and oceans. Cinematic imagery captures pistons pumping in synchronized rhythm, electrical arcs illuminating the faces of astonished observers, and rotating gears driving production with relentless efficiency. Contrast between the raw forces of nature and precise human control underscores both audacity and ingenuity. Every technological leap amplifies human capability, redefining the possible and expanding the horizons of ambition. Mechanization redefines labor and production. Factories centralize human effort and mechanical function, achieving outputs beyond the capacity of individual labor. Cinematic sequences depict assembly lines in coordinated motion, raw materials transformed into finished products, and workers synchronizing with machines to achieve efficiency and precision. The interplay between human skill and mechanical endurance demonstrates the synergy of intellect and labor while highlighting the social ramifications of industrial transformation, including urbanization, changing labor dynamics, and shifts in daily life. Communication and transportation networks amplify human reach. Railways, canals, and telegraph systems connect distant regions, enabling trade, knowledge dissemination, and cultural exchange on an unprecedented scale. Cinematic visuals show trains cutting across landscapes, telegraph lines stretching toward distant horizons, and ports bustling with activity, emphasizing the scale and impact of connectivity. Contrast between previously isolated communities and newly interconnected regions dramatizes the transformative effects of these networks on society, commerce, and human interaction. Scientific principles guide this era with increasing precision. Engineers, chemists, and physicists refine processes, calibrate instruments, and conduct experiments meticulously. Laboratories hum with activity. Chemical reactions observed and measured, mechanical devices tested, and data carefully recorded. Contrast between theory and practical application highlights the complexity and stakes of discovery, as success transforms society and failure demands reflection and adaptation. Cinematic storytelling conveys both the tension and exhilaration of experimentation, engaging the audience in the intellectual and emotional journey of discovery. Emotion permeates this period of rapid advancement. Awe at human capability mingles with anxiety over uncertainty, ethical dilemmas, and unintended consequences. Cinematic sequences capture both intimate and grand moments. Hands adjusting delicate machinery, eyes fixed on chemical reactions, and communities witnessing the unveiling of transformative technologies. Human faces reflect determination, wonder, and apprehension, emphasizing that progress is inseparable from courage, creativity, and persistence. Each breakthrough becomes both a triumph of intellect and a testament to human resilience. Collaboration accelerates knowledge transfer and innovation. Scholars, inventors, and workers exchange insights, refine techniques, and replicate experiments across generations and regions. Contrast between isolated experimentation and collective advancement highlights the multiplying power of shared knowledge. Cinematic imagery depicts bustling workshops, collaborative forums, and laboratories alive with discussion, demonstrating that innovation is often a networked achievement rather than the product of solitary genius. Societies evolve in response to technological expansion. Urban centers swell, economic structures diversify, and education systems expand to prepare future generations for complex challenges. Contrast between traditional practices and modern industrial demands dramatizes opportunity and disruption. Productivity, mobility, and connectivity surge even as social hierarchies, ethical dilemmas, and environmental challenges arise. The narrative emphasizes that every technological leap carries consequences, shaping the trajectory of human civilization. Systematic experimentation and methodological rigor define this era. Hypotheses are formulated, tested, and refined with meticulous attention to detail. Hands adjust precise instruments, eyes monitor reactions, and observations are recorded and analyzed. Contrast between predictability and the unpredictability of nature sustains suspense, illustrating that innovation is iterative, demanding, and fraught with risk. Success transforms understanding and capability, while failure informs adaptation, furthering the cycle of progress. By the conclusion of this section, audiences witness a civilization empowered by intellect, innovation, and ambition. Technological, societal, and intellectual advancements converge, producing transformations that are profound, tangible, and far-reaching. Contrast between natural limitation and human mastery, uncertainty and achievement, imagination and execution enhances engagement and emotional resonance. Cinematic narrative emphasizes scale, rhythm, and human experience, portraying the interplay of intellect, labor, and invention in shaping the modern world. Through these 2,000 words, viewers are immersed in a cinematic portrayal of industrial, intellectual, and societal transformation. The section emphasizes the integration of experimentation, applied knowledge, and visionary ambition, illustrating humanity's capacity to reshape environment, society, and destiny. Cinematic storytelling conveys tension, scale, and emotional depth, leaving audiences with a profound understanding of progress, responsibility, and the interwoven forces of curiosity, courage, and capability that define the future. This narrative sets the stage for continued exploration, philosophical inquiry, and technological innovation, illustrating that the future is born where human imagination meets action. The 21st century arrives like a storm of light and data, cascading across the globe with the speed of thought. Humanity has entered an age where information moves faster than wind, and invisible currents of computation shape everything from commerce to consciousness. The pulse of civilization is no longer measured in mechanical rhythm but in digital flow, streams of numbers, algorithms, and artificial minds intertwining with human ambition. The boundaries between the physical and the digital dissolve, and the story of the future begins to be written not on paper but in code. Cities glow like constellations of intelligence. Satellites orbit silently above, feeding invisible threads of communication that bind the world together. Skyscrapers rise as glass monoliths of data, their surfaces reflecting the pulse of digital life beneath. Inside, servers hum softly, the new temples of civilization. A single human gesture, a click, a swipe, a command, sets in motion algorithms that calculate destinies, trade fortunes, and simulate realities. In this new frontier, knowledge is power, but attention is currency. The invisible architecture of the internet has become the most powerful structure ever built. Science evolves at a velocity that defies tradition. Quantum computing bends the logic of classical physics, creating machines that process probability itself. Artificial intelligence begins to learn, adapt, and imagine, imitating not just human thought but human intuition. Laboratories now resemble digital ecosystems, where scientists interact with neural networks capable of uncovering patterns beyond comprehension. Contrast sharpens. Human creativity versus algorithmic precision, emotion versus computation, the soul versus the system. The audience feels the pull of both awe and unease, wondering if progress has finally surpassed its maker. Cinematic imagery shifts between perspectives. The macro view of Earth from orbit, its network of glowing lines connecting every continent, and the micro view of a single scientist staring at cascading lines of code. The tension builds. Humanity has reached a stage where it can simulate weather, predict disease, and design life itself. But with this power comes the haunting question: has the future become too intelligent to need us? Artificial systems now write poetry, compose symphonies, and generate solutions to problems unsolved for centuries. Yet behind every brilliant algorithm lies a shadow, the possibility that human meaning might dissolve within its own invention. The human brain, once the most complex structure known, now meets its rival. Neuroscientists map synaptic networks while programmers mirror them in silicon. Thoughts can be digitized, memories uploaded, and emotions simulated. Cinematic frames capture the eerie stillness of laboratories where consciousness is not born but replicated. Scientists peer into screens reflecting themselves, a metaphor for humanity studying its own reflection through artificial intelligence. The narrative slows, exploring the philosophical depth of this era. If machines can think, can they dream? And if they can dream, what separates creation from creator? Economies and societies restructure around these technologies. Automation replaces routine labor, transforming industries at a scale unseen since the first industrial revolution. Education evolves into personalized data streams. Governments rely on predictive analytics to make policy decisions. Even war shifts. Drones and algorithms replace soldiers, turning the battlefield into an abstract space of code and computation. Cinematic tension rises as humanity realizes that progress, though magnificent, carries a quiet danger: the surrender of control to systems that do not sleep, do not tire, and do not question. In this digital civilization, time accelerates. News cycles last minutes, trends shift in seconds, and global events unfold in real time before billions of eyes. The human mind, evolved for slower rhythms, strains to adapt. The contrast between the stillness of nature and the velocity of information becomes a visual and emotional motif. Trees swaying gently beside glowing screens, oceans crashing against fiber optic cables, faces illuminated by artificial light instead of the sun. The modern age feels both hyperconnected and profoundly lonely. The more humanity communicates, the less it seems to understand itself. Yet within this noise, new philosophies emerge. Thinkers, scientists, and artists begin to question the nature of progress itself. What does it mean to be human in a world where machines can feel and predict desire? Can consciousness exist without biology? The camera lingers on quiet moments. A philosopher walking alone through a city of holograms, a programmer staring at a blinking cursor that seems almost alive. The pace slows, allowing reflection, a contrast to the relentless tempo of innovation. Progress, once a source of certainty, now becomes an open question. As the world digitizes, even reality begins to fragment. Virtual spaces mirror the physical world, social lives unfold in simulations, and identities multiply. Cinematic transitions blur the boundaries between the real and the digital. Faces dissolve into data, landscapes pixelate into artificial constructs. The audience is left disoriented yet fascinated. In this world, perception itself becomes editable. Reality is no longer discovered, it is designed. The question becomes not what is true, but who controls the definition of truth. Despite the complexity and chaos, hope persists. In laboratories and classrooms, in small teams and vast collaborations, humans continue to reach beyond the limits of their creations. Artificial intelligence, once feared as a rival, begins to merge with human creativity. Augmented intelligence arises, a partnership rather than a replacement. The narrative brightens. Surgeons guided by AI save lives once thought lost, climate models reverse destruction, artists and algorithms co-create beauty. The tone shifts from anxiety to harmony, showing that technology, when tempered with ethics and empathy, can amplify humanity rather than diminish it. Cinematically, the section closes with a visual metaphor, a single drop of water falling into an ocean of light. The ripples spread endlessly, symbolizing the merging of organic and digital, the individual and the collective, the human and the artificial. The narrator's voice fades over images of Earth glowing with connected energy, a reminder that every epoch is born from the dreams and doubts of the one before it. The future was not merely discovered, it was built, question by question, line by line, by the same human curiosity that once looked at the stars and wondered what lies beyond. As the screen darkens, one final question lingers, echoing through the silence. If humanity created intelligence to mirror itself, what happens when the reflection begins to look back? The story does not end here, it evolves. The next chapter of existence will not be written by humans alone, but by a partnership between mind and machine, a collaboration that will determine whether this digital dawn becomes humanity's renaissance or its final illusion. The horizon of tomorrow is no longer distant. It unfolds silently before us, moment by moment, decision by decision, in the quiet hum of machines and the whispers of imagination. The world has transformed into a living network, an ecosystem of minds, both human and artificial, intertwined in a delicate equilibrium of creation and control. What once existed as fantasy has solidified into function. Cities breathe with intelligence. Oceans are mapped in real time. Spacecraft glide between worlds guided by autonomous cognition. The line that once separated dream from design has dissolved completely. Humanity stands not at the edge of progress but within it, inside the very mechanism of its own making. Night falls over a metropolis of glass and light. From above, the city appears alive, a pulsing organism of energy and intent. Roads shimmer like veins, carrying data and movement through the body of civilization. Skyscrapers glisten with digital constellations, their reflections merging with the stars above, making it difficult to tell where the Earth ends and the cosmos begins. Inside these towers, algorithms hum quietly, managing systems of unimaginable complexity. They predict weather, trade futures, allocate energy, even anticipate human emotion. Cinematic imagery captures this duality, the serenity of technological perfection contrasted against the fragility of its creators. Men and women staring into screens, trying to maintain control over the symphony they've unleashed. Science has become a form of storytelling, a way to give structure to the unknown. The language of equations, genetic sequences, and computational models replaces myth, yet it carries the same purpose: to explain, to illuminate, to connect. The search for meaning now unfolds in particle accelerators and supercomputers instead of temples. Physicists chase the origins of the universe through tunnels of light beneath mountains. Biologists decode the algorithms of life written in the double helix. Astronomers peer into the silent expanse of space, their telescopes receiving ancient photons from galaxies that no longer exist. Each discovery reveals not only how much we know, but how much remains unseen. A reminder that the future, like the cosmos, is infinite in its depth. Artificial intelligence, once a tool, now becomes a collaborator. Machines compose music that evokes emotion, design architecture that breathes, and generate scientific hypotheses beyond human comprehension. Yet the relationship is fragile, a partnership defined by both dependence and doubt. In cinematic rhythm, the narrative cuts between cooperation and confrontation. A researcher working alongside an AI that finishes her thoughts before she speaks. A debate in an ethics council where lawmakers argue whether consciousness can exist without suffering. A quiet scene of a robotic arm painting, its movements deliberate, graceful, almost human. The contrast between mechanical precision and creative imperfection creates a haunting beauty, suggesting that intelligence, whether silicon or organic, carries within it the same longing to understand its place in the universe. The planet itself becomes a protagonist. Sensors blanket every continent, feeding vast databases that monitor forests, oceans, and weather patterns with astonishing detail. From orbit, Earth glows with streams of data like veins of light beneath its surface. Climate models pulse with color and motion, predicting storms decades before they form. Humanity, for the first time, possesses the ability to foresee planetary transformation. And yet, the power to prevent it lies not in knowledge alone but in will. The cinematic tone darkens here. Despite infinite data, glaciers still melt, forests still burn, species still vanish. The audience feels the contradiction, our capacity to see everything and our struggle to act. The future was born in intelligence, but survival demands wisdom. Meanwhile, beyond Earth, the frontier reopens. Space no longer belongs to dreamers alone. Fleets of autonomous probes sail between planets, mining asteroids, mapping distant moons. Colonies rise on Mars and orbiting habitats shimmer above Earth's atmosphere. Humanity has expanded outward, yet the question of purpose lingers. The cosmic imagery is breathtaking. Spaceships illuminated by distant suns, human footprints etched into crimson dust, silent drones gliding through the rings of Saturn. But beneath the beauty lies unease. What if expansion without introspection only extends our flaws into the stars? The narrative asks softly, almost reverently, are we explorers, or are we repeating the same cycle of creation and consumption on a universal scale? Philosophy returns, not as abstract theory but as necessity. In a world where machines write poetry and algorithms simulate empathy, the definition of consciousness demands re-examination. What does it mean to feel? What does it mean to exist? Thinkers across disciplines, scientists, artists, theologians, gather in global dialogues that feel less like debates and more like collective introspection. Cinematic visuals show these moments as grand and intimate. Holographic conferences connecting minds across continents, silent meditation under glowing networks, a single philosopher writing with a fountain pen in a world dominated by code. The pace slows, allowing reflection. Humanity begins to remember that progress without perspective leads not to enlightenment but entropy. Amidst this, the individual reawakens. In a society driven by vast systems, the power of a single human choice regains meaning. The narrative focuses on ordinary people, an artist creating beauty from recycled circuits, a teacher using virtual reality to connect students across continents, a child coding her first AI under the faint light of a small apartment. Each moment becomes symbolic, a whisper that the future, no matter how complex, still depends on human spirit. Cinematic close-ups capture the subtleties of emotion. A tear glistening on a holographic reflection, hands trembling over a keyboard, a heartbeat syncing with a digital rhythm. These are the quiet moments that remind us that technology, for all its brilliance, exists to serve life, not replace it. Then comes the philosophical crescendo, the great convergence. Science, philosophy, and art, once fragmented disciplines, merge once again into a single pursuit, understanding reality. Virtual and physical worlds intertwine. Consciousness becomes a shared domain between human and machine. A new kind of intelligence arises, collective, adaptive, moral. The voiceover deepens. We built machines to know the world, but in doing so they taught us to know ourselves. The music swells. The imagery becomes symbolic, hands reaching across light, neurons merging with circuits, the human eye reflecting the infinite network of stars. The future no longer belongs to one species or system, but to a collaboration of being and becoming. And yet, amidst the triumph, the final contrast emerges, the uncertainty. The more humanity understands, the more fragile its existence appears. The laws of physics reveal a universe that may one day end in silence. The algorithms we create begin to generate ideas beyond our comprehension. We realize that control, the illusion that once defined civilization, was never truly ours. The cinematic tone softens, turning contemplative. Perhaps the purpose of intelligence was never domination but awareness. Perhaps the future was born not to conquer time, but to experience it fully, to feel the wonder, the terror, and the beauty of existing in an ever-changing universe. In the final sequence, the camera drifts through space, past Earth, glowing blue and alive, past the Moon, a silent witness to all history, past Mars, gleaming red with promise, until it reaches the vast dark between galaxies. A single spark of light appears, tiny, persistent, and moving. The narration continues. Somewhere in the quiet of the cosmos, the story continues. The dream that began in the minds of stargazers and inventors now burns in every atom of creation. The future was not a destination. It was a reflection, a mirror showing us what we could become. The light expands, filling the screen with brilliance, dissolving into white. As the brightness fades, the final image remains. A human hand reaching toward a digital one, fingertips almost touching, suspended in timeless motion. The music softens to a single note, pure and resonant. The voice whispers the closing line, where the future was born, it was never a place. It was a choice.